Today we're talking about three women who supposedly ruined the first three dynasties of ancient China. Let's rewind to China's first dynasty, the Xia. Historians date it roughly from 2070 to 1600 BCE, though the records are half history, half legend. Its last ruler, King Zhou, sat on the throne from 1818 to 1766 BCE, 52 years of proving how long terrible leadership can drag on. Enter Bao Si, said to be the most beautiful woman of the Yushi tribe. Sometimes a princess, sometimes a chieftain's sister, sometimes just a conveniently adopted commoner. When the king of Xia crushed the Yushi in battle, they surrendered with the ultimate gift, not treasure, but Bao Si herself. Because nothing says, "Please don't kill us," like FedExing your sister to the enemy's bedroom. He was ecstatic. He adored her. And Bao Si wasn't your standard silent beauty. She's described as walking like a man, carrying a sword, even dressing like a warrior. Basically, a gorgeous tomboy who preferred steel to silk. For a macho ruler who supposedly killed tigers with his bare hands and bent iron hooks like noodles, she was a perfect match. Then came the decadent twist. Bao Si had an odd obsession. She loved the sound of silk being ripped. So the king of Xi obliged, ordering crates of the empire's finest silk torn apart just to hear her laugh. Forget famine relief or roads. Taxes were funding the world's first luxury ASMR channel. The two spent their days drinking with palace women, Bao Si perched on his lap, laughing while the empire quietly unraveled. But tyrants bore easily. After a campaign against the Minshan tribe, the king of Xia brought home two new women, Wan and Yan, had their names carved into jade, and spent his nights with them. Bao Si went from queen bee to forgotten extra. She didn't take it well. Furious, she allegedly began meeting with Yi Yin. And Yi Yin wasn't your average minister. He started as the palace chef. Yes, the cook. But he was sharp, ambitious, and sick of the king's nonsense. When his advice went nowhere, because a man funding silk shredding parties isn't exactly open to feedback, Yi Yin defected to the Shang tribe. Shang's leader, Tang, immediately made him prime minister. With Yi Yin's brains, Shang grew stronger each year. And if gossip is true, Bao Si herself leaked palace secrets, helping Shang deliver the final blow. By then, the people hated the king of Xia so much, Shang barely had to try. The Xia toppled, and history's verdict was simple: blame Bao Si, the femme fatale. Bye-bye Xia. So if you're keeping score, Bao Si, the scapegoated beauty, the last king of Xia, the tyrant who turned tax money into sound effects; Yi Yin, the chef turned prime minister; and Shang Tang, the neighbor with moving boxes, who really ended the dynasty. Let's just say, if your empire collapses because someone liked weird noises, it wasn't the noise that doomed you. The Xia dynasty collapsed with Bao Si and her silk-ripping sideshow. Now it was the Shang dynasty's turn on history's chopping block. And once again, people said it was all because of a woman. Enter Daji, the beauty blamed for burning down Shang. The last king of Shang, known as King Zhou, was no fool. Brilliant, strong, terrifying, he could wrestle beasts barehanded, ride like a god, and talk circles around his ministers. But he was also arrogant enough to think no one could match him, which is basically the worst trait for a man about to meet Daji. Daji, daughter of the Yusu clan, was handed over after her people lost a war, just like Bao Si before her. She was stunning, hair like ink, face like peach blossoms, eyes like rippling autumn water. The kind of beauty kings don't just notice, they reorganize national policy around it. And the last king of Shang did exactly that. The court soon became a nightmare circus. On Deer Terrace, the king and Daji partied while thousands of concubines below were ordered to strip and dance. 72 refused, still mourning the murdered former queen. Daji whispered, they're plotting rebellion. The king asked, "What punishment fits?" She suggested the pit of serpents, throw them into a hole of snakes, scorpions, and stinging insects. Their screams became background music, while the king laughed. "Without my beloved's clever idea, I could never tame such traitors." That was only the beginning. Next came the infamous bronze pillar, a hollow copper column, heated until glowing, greased with oil, with prisoners tied to it until their flesh charred away. Then the bronze cauldrons, heated basins criminals had to clutch until their hands fried. Daji laughed at the screams like a modern influencer binging horror clips. The last king of Shang, desperate for her approval, multiplied these devices until no one dared speak up again. And her creativity kept flowing. She told him to build a wine pool and meat forest, where nobles swam drunk and wrestled naked. The losers tossed into scorpion pits. The winners? Congratulations, you got drowned in the wine pool. Either way, the house always won. At one winter banquet, the king noticed old men wading an icy river, while younger men hesitated. Daji calmly explained, "Strong marrow makes strong men." To test it, the king split their shin bones. She was right, and he praised her like a prophet. Later, she claimed she could predict the sex of unborn babies. So he rounded up pregnant women, slit them open, and congratulated Daji when she was correct. Government by slasher film was now official policy. Anyone who tried to object, prince or minister, was either exiled, barbecued on the bronze pillar, or dissected to check if a wise man's heart really had 7 holes. Spoiler, it didn't. By then, every last voice of reason was gone. So when the Zhou tribe finally rose in rebellion, Shang was already hollow. At the Battle of Muye, the Shang king's massive army flipped sides mid-fight, leaving him abandoned. Knowing it was over, he piled treasures on himself, set Deer Terrace ablaze, and threw himself into the fire. As for Daji, legends say executioners couldn't bring themselves to kill her, so beautiful was her face. Finally, the rebel executioner held up a demon-revealing mirror, and Daji's true form appeared, a 9-tailed fox sent by the goddess Nuwa. Why? Because years earlier, the last king of Shang had insulted Nuwa's temple and tried to defile her statue. This was her revenge. So once again, history says, a dynasty falls. Blame the woman. But let's be honest. If your king thinks wine pools, human barbecues, and maternity ward dissections are great governance, maybe the fox was just the messenger. The Shah fell with Bao Si. The Shang burned with Daji. You'd think after 2 dynasties, rulers might stop blaming women for their own stupidity. But no, the Zhou dynasty had to prove history really does run on reruns. Enter Bao Si, the queen who allegedly laughed a kingdom to death. Bao Si's beginnings weren't glamorous. She was an abandoned baby, raised by a humble merchant couple in the state of Bao. When the state of Bao lost the war in 779 BCE, they followed an old tradition, surrender with a beautiful woman. This time it was Bao Si, and the last king of Zhou, like so many rulers before him, fell madly in love. So mad he even dumped his queen and heir to crown her instead. Ministers sighed. Yup, we're doomed. Bao Si was stunning, but not exactly bubbly. She almost never smiled. And when she did, she lit up the room so much, the king of Zhou became obsessed with making it happen again. He promised mountains of gold to anyone who could coax a laugh. One courtier came up with the dumbest and deadliest idea in Chinese history: fake an invasion. Here's how it worked. On Lishan Mountain stood the royal beacon towers, meant to summon allies in a real attack. The king lit the beacons, drums thundered, and vassal states rushed in with their armies, only to find no danger. Just the king and Bao Si watching like it was live entertainment. The soldiers went home in disgust. But Bao Si, she finally cracked a smile. The king thought it was comedy gold. Of course, comedy has consequences. After pulling this stunt over and over, Zhou lost all credibility. In 771 BCE, when real enemies stormed the capital, the last king lit the beacons again. This time, no one came. He was killed on the spot, and Bao Si was captured, some say executed. Western Zhou collapsed that very day. As historian Sima Qian summed it up, Bao Si never laughed. But when the king forced a smile from her, the rest of the world had nothing left to laugh about. So no, Bao Si didn't destroy the dynasty with her beauty. Zhou fell because its king thought national defense was a party trick to impress his girlfriend. Turns out, when you cry wolf with fireworks, the wolf actually wins. So from Mo Shi to Daji to Bao Si, 3 women supposedly doomed 3 dynasties. Yet the real curse wasn't beauty, it was the stupidity of the men in charge. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Love you.